And we're back at it again. Let's see if we can not get an ad here. See if he says it here. Nah, he ain't gonna say it here. Well, how they this is a Long Island audit, and yeah, they called the police, and the police said, yeah, that he's not doing anything illegal, and they still wanted it their way, and so I'll show you a couple comments here. They said, crazy how they still wanted it their way. Shake my head. I said, it is the spirit of lawlessness. That's what it is. It's lawlessness. They don't care about the law. I mean, let that sink in. They literally don't care about the law. They don't care about laws. They care about what they can get away with. Mostly, what you're talking about there is the spirit of lawlessness. Also, the evil spirits of violence. They had the spirits of violence on them. Like that one to the left, she started circling around him and stuff like that. They try to get behind your back in order to do something. That's a spirit of violence. It's an evil spirit. And idolatry of man. So, a few times I let them know here what it is. It's like, wow, why are they that way? Well, it's the spirits of lawlessness, violence, and idolatry of man. It's evil spirits. And they, when you're ran by the spirit of the world, especially when you're not, the people that are not in Christ, that comes with a lot of evil spirits, especially in this land. At least I could say, let's find the other one. But that's pretty much it. I'll tell another commenter on here. It's a spirit of lawlessness, violence, and idolatry of man. But this is interesting. I've never seen this before. Sergeant Johnny Wallsmith here commented, Sean, you caught a spirit whispering right when you were exiting the gym. Like right when he, the police had to escort him to keep those people away from him so he could actually go in there and vote and legally videotape, not videotaping other people doing their votes. He's just videotaping those areas that he can videotape and videotape him going to the little tables there and stuff, a couple tables. That's totally fine. Security guards put their hands on him and stuff like that, but yeah, when he was leaving, he did that. He said, right when you were exiting the gym and telling the security that you hope they learned something. It's at 23:48. Let's check it out. And last about 7 seconds. It's creepy. I've never seen one of these comments. Everyone check it out. It starts out saying, at night you, then I can't understand the rest. Yeah, sometimes you could catch evil spirits on there. I'm telling you, man.
Learn something today. Have a great day. All right, so let's get it. For sure. Hope you guys learned something today. Have a great day. All right, so let's get out of here.
I heard that. I don't know if that was a spirit or not. It sounded like an old lady or something like that. But they sound like that sometimes. I heard at night something right there. Did you hear that? This person's saying it's evil spirit.
Peacefully exercised our rights. Nothing. Hope you guys learned something today. Have a great day. All right, so let's get out of here.
I never seen it. I don't know, but I know that's what it is. I mean, it's not just natural people, The spirit of the world would just make a natural person violent. And if they have a culture where, like, well, they can just get away with anything, a culture of lawlessness, And then sometimes they'll even say, I don't care about your rights. I don't care about the law and stuff. Even no matter what position that they're in, even if they're in the law, I've seen law enforcement officers and things like mayors and stuff like that literally say things like that. And usually they're so like messed up and evil, which makes people not say things. They're more cold and calculated and shut down and walled up. Normally they won't blurt that out, but I've heard them. They've literally blurted that out. That's lawlessness, man. And so they try to come to you and act like they did on this video here. Said it's against the law, and they know that. But if you show them something, they're total hypocritical, just total evil, And they don't care, but they'll. So a police officer had to. And we could go on. I could write books about it. Wow. Wow, man. A semblance, and they have to keep a semblance of government. They have to keep this person's keeping a semblance of, the court said they keep a semblance of justice. That's literally in their papers. An appearance of justice. That they must keep an appearance of justice. I could break it down for you if you want, but I'd rather have a conversation with somebody. Good luck with that in 2026, but yeah, indeed, I could break down a lot of those things there. That's what would be writing a book would be for.
I'll give it to you. Turn the camera that way.
Okay, man.
Just give him a ballot, please. And then
He should not be allowed in here.
He checked with the sergeant. Yeah.
Because he's like, well, establishment, I have to respect establishment, not the law. You know what I mean? But here, they give an semblance of law and order. So that's good, That's a good thing. You're at least doing well to do that, yeah. Well, we could go on and on about how sick the world is. But I'll tell you just one more thing that's really sick. They probably know who he is. I think this is his home county. I think this is in Long Island. This is his home voting place, whatever. Oh, they probably know who he is anyway. And if it wasn't him, if it wasn't this Sean Paul Reyes guy, what do you think? And what does that say? It speaks volumes. It speaks encyclopedias. It speaks everything. It speaks everything. It is the condemnation of the world. Think about it for a while if you don't get it. No news flash. We know the world's evil and stuff like that, but for us that are Christians that know the word, man, I met a Christian, dude. Some don't, and I don't know. I'm not sure if they're Christian or not. I've met a few in different ways. Said some insane stuff though. I had one Christian. He said they're they're saying they were Christian and all that, and in quite a few ways. And I was saying something about chemtrails, and they said, "Well, if the government's doing it, it's got to be for our good. Whatever the government does is for our good." They said that. I mean, it's not black and white. It's not anarchy and stuff. That's why you gotta. I guess I've never said this in my life before, but I'm starting to see it here recently. You gotta be a little bit intelligent, If not, just stay out of these things and be wise. You could be a totally non-intelligent, totally uneducated person, not know any of these details of any of these things, as long as you're wise, everything's good. You know, you'll know to stay away from probably you'll stay away from these whole subjects in general, at least in getting in depth about them, right? But man, if you're going to get in these subjects, man, you gotta rub more than 3 brain cells together. I mean, it seems to me, you know. And it is kind of a land, it's kind of a world of Homer Simpsons, man. It is. I don't, you know, I don't usually talk about that, but daggone. Damn. Man, that stuff's wild. Like I talked to one guy that it seems like he was a brother, and we talked for a while, and he was like, he said, "Oh no, the Freemasonries. He's talking about how he admires them, and he wants to know their knowledge, and admires them, thinks they're doing a good work. It's probably God using them to do His strange work and all this." I'm like, do you know that there's So you see why, even though things like this seem very elementary to most of us that I talk with and stuff, it should seem, if I talk with you, I'd say these things are very elementary. It's like, yeah, we know the world is corrupt. But I'm telling you, some people don't understand it. There's some people that it seem like they're Christian, that they don't understand it. Yeah, you respect authority. They think it's either one way or the other. It's either that, they think either, well, if the government's doing it, it's for your good. You know, they're the top people to be trusted in the world. It's either that or you're running the streets, burning down buildings. It's like, oh, you're one of those rebels or something like that. No, not at all, no. Just like this Sean Paul Reyes guy, he's not a rebel. He's actually wanting to see laws obeyed. Is that a rebel? No. That's actually the definition of not a rebel. He's actually wanting to see laws obeyed by the law enforcement officers, by himself, by other people. And so some people that are like, man, that community, they call them bootlickers or something like that. Either that or they're just extremely stupid. That's disparaging. I shouldn't talk like that. Extremely ignorant. I mean, some, maybe you give the benefit of the doubt, say they're extremely ignorant. And they don't know what the spirit and the idea of America are. You know, the idea and the spirit of original America, which we were taught in schools, or that we were still in, even though the government thinks otherwise. They're teaching you something that they don't believe in themselves. The Rockefeller textbooks and all that stuff. But anyway, in order to do that, it's actually the most American thing, good, bad, right, or wrong. No matter what you think of the American, you know, we could debate. Like one of the best questions I see here recently, what do you think God thinks of the American idea, or the American system, the original founding America? You know, when most of us hear the word America, what we think of, the definition of that is. Question is, what do you think God thinks about that? Does God think it's inherently anti-God, or does he think it's or could be not anti-God? Could be a good thing for the people living in that land. You know, that's one question. So, however you fall on that subject, the actual idea and system and working of what we know as America actually requires that. What Sean Paul Reyes here is doing is extremely American. Now it looks weird because it's gotten, preferably it shouldn't have gotten to this point, right? Of this insanity and lawlessness and spirit of violence and all that running amok. And so many, oh man, I could write books. Well, they got to give a semblance and it's complex. It gets into a lot of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Let me break it down again for you in another way, in more ways here. Easier to understand. Practical application here. Okay, now a lot of our Christian mindset is like when it comes to that woman at the polls there and those security officers that were giving him trouble for just coming in there at a place that he can have a camera and record. Well, they didn't like it. They didn't care about the law, so they was going crazy, you know. So they like, oh, but we've been given this badge or this authority or something like that. And the first thing, the first woman that talked to him said is because he asked why, what is the law, and she said, because I say so. That told you everything right there. What I'm gonna get into here. He asked, well, what is that law? She said, because I say so. That's a little Pharaoh syndrome there. So to break it down, a lot of times we have the mindset, let's say we were observing that. We were there with him and we were off to the side and observing that, watching this happen. Me, you, we're around a few of us, we're a group of Christians, okay, we're seeing it. And even a lot of us, we're seeing that, we're thinking, oh, he's being unruly. One or two of us or whatever say something like this. Well, why be unruly? Why create a fuss? They're telling you to do this or that. You can't just come in here and do whatever you want. They're coming, is the mentality, you know. You're creating a ruckus. You're being rebellious. That's actually not being rebellious. Because, you know, that elections, what's it called? Department of Elections. You know, she was a worker there. I don't know her title. A couple of them and 2 or 3 security guards is who he's dealing with here. And so you're saying, why create you're just troublemaking, you know, like that. A couple of us are saying things like that. And, you know, maybe we go home or we go out to eat somewhere later and discuss it. We sit down and discuss it, and one of them that was saying that is even brings up some Bible verses that seems to fit. Oh, because of this, and you obey every ordinance of man and all that. That they're using that for that situation. Well, here's why that actually doesn't work. We could put it this simply: that who do you obey? That you've seen the picture there, that woman on the left, for instance, that picture, and that police officer on the right. Okay, picture that. Do you obey the one on the left that's trying to take away not only your legal rights, your lawful rights, your natural rights, and your God-given rights? It's actually all 4 of those. She's saying what you're doing is illegal. She's trying to claim that, even though if you keep pressing them, usually you'll find out they don't care what's illegal. They care what they can get away with telling you what to do. They don't actually care what legal is. But they may try to use that, and they'll say, it's illegal, even though they don't care about the law. So in other words, it's a lie. So do you just obey whatever she's saying? I was like, well, it's she's running this polling station. Let's say. Do you just obey her, or do you let her take away your rights to claim that what you're doing is illegal, even though it's not? Or do you obey the laws? Do you wanted to videotape this thing? The laws are there for a reason. Like the laws that you can record in public, the laws that Fourth Amendment, for instance, you have a right to your identity, your papers, your person, the right to refuse. Besides a warrant, and there's some things written in the law that actually there's a few things written in the law that's unconstitutional, and that you'd have to challenge and up at a much higher level, of course. But most of the laws regarding these things, anyway, are in accordance with the also Constitution, which, given the Constitution, there can't be any laws made that go against the Constitution, or if they are, they're void. There shall not be any laws made that go against this Constitution. So, legislators have also been doing unconstitutional things, but that's a subject for a different time. We could break it down this simply. Which, using that biblical verse, ordinance of man, do you obey? Do you obey just someone that's like, oh, we got a badge, we got a name tag or something, and says that, so they got a little Pharaoh syndrome, so, oh, it doesn't matter about the law, it's what I say. Do you obey that? Or do you actually obey the laws? Sometimes it's even law enforcement officers that are not going by the laws. Do you obey them, or do you obey the laws? Well, you obey the laws. As what you, I mean, if you believe in the American system and a rule by law, either that or it's lawlessness, and it's just we're all little pharaohs, and if anybody gets a name tag or a management spot, we're all little pharaohs, and we're ruling all we survey and wherever we're at. If you believe in that, that's not American. I mean, by definition, you'd have to call that another nation. You live in, I don't know, you'd have to name that something else. And by the way, the Luciferian NWO Freemasons and worse Luciferians that are in the, just like JFK said, secret society shadow government of the tops of the government, they did just that. But they pretty much named it the same thing. I think they made a difference in their legal papers. They do their little forked tongue thing where they say it's the United States, and one of them's the United States of America. They try to split words but still keeping the identity of their enemy. Like I've talked about the Luciferians, that's how they do. So they still try to keep the name. I don't know what they named this land in their private settings. They probably do give it a different name. But what they portray out to us, they give a very similar name to the United States of America. Anyhow, that's how they do it. That's how sneaky they are, you know. But back to obeying the laws of the land that you're in, of the nation that you're in. You do that. You obey the laws of the land. Now, when that goes against authority that is higher than that, because there is an authority that is higher than that, ultimately the highest authority, which is God. God is the highest authority. If laws go against the highest authority, who do you obey? You obey the highest authority. Which we see many times, not only in the Old Testament, but the New Testament as well. Paul and out through Acts and everything, they give respect to the people in that position. That's one thing that sometimes auditors, Sean Paul Reyes does very good, but some auditors need to learn to, like, you respect the position that they're in, that those people are in, the officials and such, even though they may have got it by fraud. But it's not really respecting the person, it's respecting the position of various authorities. And you respect all men, and there's a verse also for honor all men. We're talking about honoring authorities. You honor them, but if they say something like, here's a clear case in recent times. Pastor Arthur Pulaski, during that lockdown thing a few years ago, his conviction before God is, you assemble, you don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together. So he has that as conviction before his God. Christian, he's a brother. God help him. God help him be delivered from. That's a different subject. But they were trying to say no, and this is up in Canada. It was pretty bad. And I say, no, you can't assemble. No, you can't assemble your church. No, you can't hold your church here. And they did all kinds. Oh man, they did all kinds of, treacherous, evil, horrible things to him and them and those family. And he wasn't doing anything wrong. He just said, no, we're going to assemble. No, we're assembling for church. So that's where's that at? That's on the government. The burden of that is on the government and whatever agencies that are going against what? The highest authority. It's just going to have to fall where it may. It's like, what is that Bible character that says, you judge whether we should obey God or man on this. But on this, you judge for yourself whether we should obey God or man. So, it is what it is, and the line is drawn, But normally, the laws in our local land and things like that, if it's not going against God, yeah, you obey it. But that's like number 2, you could say. You obey them. Now, if you go to number 3, just anybody that walks up to you with a name tag or whatever else says, oh, you got to do this because I say so. Well, it's going to have to be lawful. And that law is going to have to not go against the highest authority. If that's the case, well, yeah, okay. Okay, oh, you saying I got to do this and it's lawful? And that law is not against the highest authority? Oh, okay, yes. Then you're right. I have to do that. One other thing I want to mention, though, I feel might be coming up in some people's minds. The parent-child relationship is a little bit different. That's a different type of authority structure. That's a little different. And I'm no expert on that, but that's not the same thing. The governments and officials of the land, they're not our parents. They're not our father or our mother. So the way that I just described it these past about 30 minutes, that's the way that works. Now the parent-child relationship, that's a different subject. I'll let somebody else handle that one. Okay, one more thing. I'm going to illustrate it yet another way. Okay. Some may be saying that, you obey all of them. You obey God, you obey the laws of the land, and you obey that woman with a name tag, whatever let's give a title here. The secretary or something, whatever. You obey that secretary or official there, whatever. You obey all of them. You obey all of them. Well, take it levels 1, 2, and 3. 1, the highest authority. 2, let's say the laws and law enforcement officers and that part of Gov. And level 3, the official there, whatever, running that little spot that you're at. they could get you in trouble. Look at this. If you have a coach, let's say you're on a sports team and you have a coach and you're across the street, very, very simple. And it's some kind of, what do you call it? Jaywalking situation or something like that. Something illegal that if you cross the street right there, it would be against the laws. But he's telling you on the other side of the street, say, hey, come on, no, come on, go over here right now, right here, right now. But you, by your conviction, you're like, well, I know this is not lawful what you're telling me to do. You're like, well, you might make your coach mad, but no, hold up, coach. I gotta do this the lawful way. Now, even though if he gets mad about that, who's the burden on? You're right, the coach. But here's where you're not being a rebel. That if he tells you to do something, if he tells you to cross over this way, what do? You check 1, 2, and 3. Let's say a coach on a sports team. He tells you to do something. You make the check 1, 2, 3. 1, highest authority. 2, laws of the land. 3, what your, in this instance, coach is saying. If it lines up, it's okay. God's okay with it. The laws of the land are okay with it. And coach is telling me to do it. So you're happy to do it. Because, you obey your coach if it checks 1, 2, 3. Because, it's your coach or your teacher or something like that. And he's telling you, hey, come over here. It's like, okay, coach, I'm coming over there. You want to do what your coach says. So it's that simple, checking 1, 2, 3. So if you just go with level number 3, they could get you in trouble. You could have gotten in trouble with the laws of the land because you were doing what your coach said. And you go up another level. If you go by the laws of the land that are against the highest authority, you think God's going to be happy with that? Nope. Nope, you obeyed man rather than God. So it's broke down there, very simple. You check 1, 2, 3. And if they're in line, and they should be, and they act like they are, people using that third position, second position. But if they are, yes. If you don't want to make your coach mad at you, you want to be a good student or pupil or player or whatever. Yeah, you're not rebellious. You check it and then obey. Be a good person, student, pupil, all that stuff. One more word on getting in trouble. One last word, hopefully, about getting in trouble if you do that. If you just obey that at level 3, let's say you just, okay, this level 3 thing of authority, just this manager or whatever telling me something. If you have the mindset of just, okay, I'm not checking 1, 2, 3, I'm not checking them. Level 3 is telling me something, so I have to do it. And oftentimes they come with violence. They come with a spirit of violence. They're very vicious and things like that because they just, they got like bad insecurities, to put it mildly. Oftentimes seems like those vicious people gravitate to those positions. It's unfortunate in this world that we're in. So they move a lot of people by their violence and viciousness. It's like, oh, you have to because I say so. And they try to, make you feel guilty, make you feel afraid, whatever they try to do to try to control. If you just do that, it's designed to where you'll get in trouble by the system. And one of the ways that happens, you obey number 3. And if you keep doing that, you will get in trouble by that very system that's even employing that number 3. That's how messed up that world is. And one of the ways that happens, well, that's why the Luciferians, that's how they train the police officers in order to, they know the laws, and the laws that they set forth before our eyes. It's the way it usually happens here in the American system here. But they go ahead and they train the law enforcement officers to try to get you to do things beyond that. To even take away the rights that you have in the law to do this or that. And they'll even break the law themselves. And one of the things that happened, what they're doing with the American system, they've been doing for quite a long time, is like, well, it's lawful, but you went ahead and obeyed what was not lawful. So not only can that get you in trouble from the second level to the third, or the third level to the second, that's how that they go about in order to spread tyranny and unlawfulness and laws that were in this nation against the Constitution. If you keep obeying what is not right just because somebody in level 3 tells you to, they'll be like, well, they're obeying it. It was unlawful, but the people are obeying it. So now we'll even make a law about it. So it spreads tyranny, and it, like many people in the Protestant community says, it takes away your rights. I mean, even worst case scenario, it even lawfully take away your God-given, natural, lawful, and what used to be legal rights. They'll take that away more and more, more and more, more and more. Why? Because you didn't obey what was lawful. You just obeyed what somebody said. So it's not good in many ways. So they put you in fear, that they moved you by fear. About fear that was not lawful, so you ended up doing something that was not lawful, not legal, in a worst case scenario, also against God. Just because somebody on level 3, let's say, worst case scenario here, kind of, told you to. They moved you by fear. For you to do the wrong thing. And somebody on the sideline saying, yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it. Yeah, you got to obey everybody like that. Look, they have a name tag and a clipboard or something. You got to do whatever they say. Oh, no, actually you don't. According to what I've said here the past 40 minutes, that's not inherently true. So, you check it down, 1, 2, 3. Simplest way to put it. And then they're there for a reason. It's not just, whoever's come at you with a vicious semblance of authority, that's who you always have to obey. No, you check 1, 2, 3, or you will get in trouble in one way or another. Unlawful trouble, Now, doing the right thing, they could persecute you, but that's persecution. Now, if something bad happens to you because you did check 1, 2, 3, and you're doing the right thing, the right moral thing, the lawful thing, as long as it's okay with number 1, check. You check them down. Now, if you suffer because of that, you're suffering for, and I'll even say this, I'll even use the biblical words for this, you're suffering for righteousness' sake. Yeah, I said it. That's the way it works. And so that, for those people, that's why all the people that are doing those things, I ask and I plead and I pray for them sometimes that they have a relationship with God. That they get saved in Lord Jesus Christ, have a relationship with God. Because you might suffer for doing the right thing. And if so, yeah. Yeah, you'll end up eventually needing that relationship with God, for many reasons, right? So,
And he saw my testimony. He took it to all the elders, and they saw my testimony, and they didn't like what I had to say. So when I got the phone call, it was more of a warning or a threat, and they said, I need you to stop talking about Jesus. I need you to stop sharing your testimony because you're sharing forbidden knowledge that people shouldn't know about. And I know exactly what it was about. It was about the medicine bag and what was in it and the power that it doesn't have, because it really it doesn't have any power. It was meant as a warning. It was meant as a threat. It was meant to silence truth. But God exposes the spirit behind such messages. And that's what happened. Say the least. It made me cry, not because he yelled at me, but it was because I heard two voices come out of him. I heard a demonic voice. It was a low growl that came out as he was screaming, Jesus is nothing but a man, I am God. Proverbs 6, verses 16 through 19. There's 16 that the Lord hates, and there's a list of them. The last one is the one who sows discord among the brethren. This thread contains several of the things that God hates. It was not the Creator. It was not my ancestors. It was not Father, because that was what he kept saying. He said, Father told me to tell you not to share the testimony. I told him, I was like, we have different fathers. My father says for we to share the testimony. I told him, I was like, we have different fathers. My father's not your father. In Ephesians 6, verse 12, it says, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. And everything that this medicine man had told me over the phone, I forgave him. I still love him. I still pray for his salvation because I heard what was inside of him. My brother, the one I baptized last...
okay, we'll let it go at that. I hope that recorded right. But she was saying something that totally fits with this stuff too. And Ephesians 6. Yeah. So God bless all of us that are in Lord Jesus, and come Lord Jesus. Any day now in the rapture first. He comes in the rapture first, and then after the events of Revelation are done up to chapter 19 or 20, then's the second coming after that. So come Lord Jesus.